Welcome to the Real Estate Equation Podcast. I'm Ian with I Am Home Inspections. I'm here with my lovely co-host.
I'm Liz Bushman with the Bushman team at Academy Mortgage.
Now, Liz, you are a loan specialist and lender, and you are also a first-time buyer specialist.
That is correct.
And we're going to talk about the California Dream for All program. Tell us a little about this program.
Let's do it. This program is funded by Cal HFA, or I should say serviced by, but it's actually funded by the state. So a little background, little history is that state legislation passed in 2021. And then in 2022, Governor Newsom put it in the state budget, allocating $500 million towards housing and first-time homebuyer programs. So California Dream for All was born in 2022, and then they rolled it out in 2023, phase one. Here we are in 2024. We're in phase two of the program. And basically they separated the $500 million that was allocated towards this program. And the monies actually go towards the down payment. So it's allocated at 20% to go towards your down payment, or $150,000, whichever is less.
So who is eligible for this program?
First-time homebuyers. All borrowers on the loan must be a first-time homebuyer. However, one of them must be a first-generation home buyer, which is new to this phase two rollout. Which means, to elaborate, if your parents, biological or adopted, have ever owned a home, you are disqualified.
Have they figured out how they're going to check that?
And signed affidavit is how they're going to check it. So you will declare that to the knowledge that is truthful and certify that your parents, biological or adopted, have never purchased or owned a home in their past.
Okay. So if your parents have passed away, you don't have to agree with their signature.
Well, if your parents have passed away, then they actually ask us to ask the client, the future buyer, did they own when they passed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's going to be some interesting paperwork.
It's interesting paperwork. This program is more than just housing funds, though. The idea is to create generational wealth. The idea is for you to use the 20% or 150,000, whichever is less, towards generational wealth and home equity for your next generation, because that's what generational wealth is, right? So the goal is to allow more people to live and work in the same community, or have better schools to raise their children, and bridge the gap between what they qualify for versus, what they wouldn't qualify without a 20% down payment. So a lot of times that's $100,000 difference. And that can put people in Antelope Valley versus, San Fernando Valley or even Santa Clarita, for example. Difference between Orange County, LA County, or Riverside, San Bernardino County. So there are reasons, I guess you could say, that the politicians have decided that these requirements were important.
So the all-important question, does this money have to be paid back?
Good question. So not right away. So there's no payments, no interest on the 20% down on the dream loan, let's call it that. There is no payment plan that they need to be on. However, if they want to choose to pay some of it back, they can. Cal will definitely take their money. That is a state thing, but they're not required to. So people will ask, when do I need to pay it back? When does it become due? So the legal answer to there is that when the home is triggered. So when you sell your home, there's a payoff that's ordered. That's going to trigger both loans and any loans tied to that house to be paid. So they get one refinance where they can rate and term then it won't be triggered to pay. Otherwise, if you refinance a second, third, a second time, you're going to have to pay it back. Assumption would be another when they would have to pay it back. But otherwise, they could live in the house, pay the first mortgage off, because this is a second lien mortgage. They can pay that house off, quote unquote, that 30-year loan, and then have this loan become due.
So what happens is, say someone buys the house with this program, they live there essentially for as long as they live, and then they leave it to their children.
Yes.
So do the children then have to pay back the loan?
The children can, it will get transferred into their name, is my understanding.
Oh.
And so when the 30-year loan is due, basically they come down. So you have 360 months paying off a 30-year loan. So you get down to 359. You'll get a letter in the mail saying that your $150,000 dream loan is now due. So the balance is somewhat like a balloon at that time. We would hope that they would have enough equity then, obviously, to refinance, or that the state might allow payment plans. But as far as we know, the balance would become due as soon as the first loan is paid in full.
Okay, so basically after 30 years, you're going to have to pay it back, kind of regardless of the circumstances, assuming you still have a home.
Yeah.
How does shared appreciation work with the DREAM program?
Okay, so shared appreciation is a requirement of the DREAM program. So again, there's no payment, no interest on this 20%. But when you go to sell your home, you obviously, in California, we're lucky, we have home appreciation. So they're estimating that when you do sell your home, the state is entitled to 20% of the home appreciation. So for example, if your home appreciated $100,000 from the time that you purchased the home to the time that you sell it, that 20% of $100,000 is $20,000. The state's going to grab that 20%, that $20,000, and the homeowner can and will take the additional, which would be the $80,000.
Okay. So if you hold on to the house for 30 years, that could be, and then sell it, that could be quite a bit. Is there a minimum credit score?
Yes. The first loan is conventional, so you do have to meet the conventional loan requirements. But for Cal HFA, the conventional loan requirement starts at 660. But there are income tiers. Most people in LA County, or most people that might be listening to this podcast, might make over 80% of the area median income, which then you need a 680. So to keep it simple, I've been saying 680 because most people I talk to make above that threshold.
Mm-hmm. What properties are eligible?
Property is eligible any one unit, single family, townhome, condo, or manufactured home. ADUs, one unit with an ADU is acceptable. What isn't acceptable is duplexes or multifamily. So 2 unit, 3 unit, 4 unit. But if you have your casita, your tiny home ADU in the back, and that's not considered a duplex, or the land hasn't been retitled as a duplex, one unit with an ADU is acceptable, which is more common these days.
Phase 2 has a different process than Phase 1, which was first come, first serve. Please walk us through this process.
All right. So Phase 1 was first come, first serve, which meant that you couldn't reserve your funds until you had a signed purchase agreement, buyer and seller agreement, and were technically, quote unquote, in escrow. So that created a mass flux, mass chaos, and funds were gone within technically 8 business days. So 11 calendar days. That was crazy. Ian, I had buyers that were in the middle of writing offers and in the middle of reviewing counter offers, and all of a sudden there was no more money to give. They were devastated. So what the state did this time around is for Phase 2, they decided to do a lottery process, which they're calling the voucher process. What that means is you would, first step, talk to a Cal HAFA pre-approved lender, which I'm one. I'll take your calls, 714-478-7920. But talk to a Cal HAFA approved lender. You must have a Cal HAFA pre-approval letter signed by the Cal HAFA approved loan officer and lender. Hand that over back to the buyer, and the buyer is then going to register through Cal HAFA's portal. And the website's still being built. Right now, we're looking at it not being announced or being available until April. So April of 2024 is when the website instructions will go out on how to register. Then the portal will be open for 30 days to allow everybody that is pre-approved to register with Cal HAFA. And then in May of 24, they will do their lottery system. So at that point, then if you're chosen, and let's hope a lot of you listening are, we're thinking good vibes, that once you're chosen, then you'll have 90 days to shop. So with that voucher, Cal HAFA is saying that they will honor your dream application. And then once you are in a fully executed contract with buyer seller, and technically you have and are in contract and are in escrow, then you can reserve the funds with your pre-approved lender.
So you're saying June, July, August would be a very busy time for the home inspection industry.
Yes, as it always is. Your summer months will be hot. But yes, so those that are thinking, hey, you know what, is this a program that I can utilize right now? So first quarter, as we shoot this is the first quarter of 2024. We have a little bit of time to when you can actually go out and use the program. So yes, so this coming May, June, July will be the time that you would be planning to move.
So follow-up question here. So let's say you get approved. You're one of the lucky ones. And you go out, you find a house, you get into escrow, and then as you get through escrow, you realize maybe there's something with the inspection, maybe there's something with the neighborhood. It's just not the right house. Mm-hmm. Can you continue that program to find the second house or find a better house that you actually want to buy?
My understanding, now this would be a question that probably hasn't been answered in writing, but if we had a Cal HAFA reservation today on any of their flagship programs, they allow that reservation to be transferred to a new address within a certain amount of time. So my assumption, I could be wrong here, that because you have that 90-day voucher, that you could cancel and then restart a new escrow, but it's got to be within that 90 days.
Right, so you want to find a house, identify a house, get your inspection, make sure you like the neighborhood, so you have a little bit of leeway if something were to go sideways or you decide this is not the right house for you. You can move on to a second or potentially third house.
Within that 90 days is my understanding, yeah. Well, but after that 90 days, if you do not and aren't in escrow by that 90-day, then there's going to be a wait list and you will have to give up your voucher, and somebody who's on the wait list can then have a 90-day voucher to shop and reserve.
Well, with a typical 30-day escrow, in theory, you could fit in three escrows within 90 days. Hopefully you don't need that. Most people buy the first house and sometimes the second house. It's rare that someone gets a third inspection. And usually if they're at a third or fourth inspection, they realize they probably should have bought the first house because they all have issues. Just remember, every house is going to have issues. Every house is going to have issues that come up with the inspection report. As we've said in previous episodes, don't freak out about it. Just know that there will be items, and you talk with your real estate agent and your lender. Any other notes on this?
So we talked about FICO scores. We talked about property eligibility. We talked about the process. And just to recap, first time generation home buyer, a lot of realtors I've talked to have said, well, everybody in my database has bought a house. So I don't know anybody that would qualify. It's the extension. It's almost like creating a new database with this program. So all the people that are renting that have never had the ability to own before. And I know I wish I would have, been able to jump in on this program when I bought my house. But ideally, this is for the people who live paycheck to paycheck, who haven't been able to save, but save just enough for an escrow deposit. Because remember, these funds are not going to be available right away. They get reimbursed in the back end. So borrowers still have to have enough money to pay for their home inspection, pay for their home appraisal, and their escrow earnest money deposit. So they're not cash poor, but the word I want to use is cash conservative. So as they live paycheck to paycheck, income is stable, and they've been able to keep 680 or above credit scores. You're looking at giving a good opportunity to a lot of people that have not had this type of opportunity. Now, as a backup for other programs that are available, LA County HOP, which is their home ownership program, is also available. They still have funding, and they've continued to have funding year round for the last two and a half years. City of LA housing, they have first-time homebuyer programs. So along with the Dream for All, it's getting a lot of media attention because you can buy anywhere in California, not just certain counties. You're looking at a lot of opportunity, and I think a lot of table discussions of people not think they could ever own a home, that they would constantly be renting. So it's having those discussions, having the social media to talk about it, and they find that needle in a haystack. But there are a lot of people out there that are first-generation homebuyers.
No, I agree. Definitely. All right. Well, this has been Ian with the Real Estate Equation Podcast. I'm with I Am Home Inspections. Inspections that matter for people who care. 818-298-3405.
And I'm Liz Bushman with the Bushman team of Academy Mortgage. Our service is the difference. You can reach me at 714-478-7920. And I'm accepting applications on my website, which is www.academymortgage.com/Liz Bushman. Click apply now in the blue button and get your application and be lucky to review it. Thanks for listening.
All right. Like and subscribe.